Hey everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It. Today we are with Suzanne Castle, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Miss Suzanne. Oh my gosh, a few weeks ago, maybe a little longer than that, maybe a couple months ago, and we met through a mutual friend. And some people you meet, you just like them instantly. You feel connected to them. And one thing I love about her is that she's genuine. Who you see on her website and materials is the person that you meet. And I think that to me is probably one of the best statements about someone because she is who she is. And I love that. And she I told her the other day, she brings about like a shot of caffeine because she is so energetic and she is so fun. So I'm excited today because we're going to talk about leadership, which is a big topic. And I'm excited about what she has to share today. So I'm going to ask Suzanne, hi, to share a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello. Thank you again for
Yes.
just being a beacon of joy, serving women in the way that you do,
Thank you.
uplifting organizations, getting people connected, making sure that
Yeah.
businesses have a way forward. The work that you're doing, Kimberly, is astounding. And
Thank
I
you.
am just glad to be just a small little part of the magic that you're
Oh,
creating in the world.
big
So,
part.
okay, so I'm Suzanne Castle, Castle like a princess. I've got a Disney sweatshirt on that kind of embodies
Yeah.
everything that I believe about leadership, which is
Yeah.
my journey started in entertainment. I was a professional entertainer from a small child, paid the whole bit.
Mhm.
Family tragedy,
Mm.
went to seminary, have some letters like the Reverend Doctor in front of my name. But what I
Yeah.
found is that the way that you think about leading from internally out into the world impacts everything from your
Yes.
life to your business and everything in between. And it became part of my mission
Mm.
to really think and work deeply inside of collaborative strategy, meaning that I really spend a lot of my time focusing on possibility thinking, making sure that leaders don't just stay stuck or even comfortable. And so people and entities call me when they're in conflict, when they have a big project, they're not really sure how to go forward. And I'm a big advocate for having a creative on your board, even if you're a finance person, for example, because creatives just look at the world in a slightly kind of tilted way. And so a lot of my leadership comes out of Disney principles, comes out of the entertainment field, thinking about your world almost as if you're standing on a stage and all the different components thereof to make the magic work.
Now that's a lot. And I think it's lovely. One thing I like about what you said, because it speaks again to who you are, you've had so many different creative careers, if you will. And I love that you pull in the inspiration from each of them, because I think sometimes we get so locked into one way of doing things. We get locked into a set of principles, what's in the books and what's been done for 20 plus years. And I think, it's so important to make sure that we break out of that and look at where we are today, pull in inspiration, be creative, not be afraid to try something new and fresh. I think that's so key, especially with our constantly changing leadership diagram like that's going across, the economy right now.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I often ask my clients
Mhm.
is what one decision could you make right
Mhm.
now that
Mhm.
would have devastating impact on your business or your life?
Mhm.
Now, for a lot of that, it would be like taking 100% of the money and running, right?
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of decisions that we could make that would
Mhm.
completely wreck everything that we do in 24 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a handful.
Yeah.
But if you're allowing your world to just be like everything's chaotic, so I'm not doing anything,
Yeah.
well, that is still making a decision, and it's making a decision
Mhm.
to stay stuck. And so
Right.
I hope that part of the work that I do is tell people there's a creative and safe way to
Mhm.
just take a little baby step and dip your toe
Mhm.
in the water and then go, okay,
Right.
that wasn't so bad. Like, let's do
Yeah.
something else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So I'm going to read something directly off of your website because I do not want to miss a word because I want you to explain a little bit more about the sparkle factor, because I know that you're not a woo-woo type of person. Now, some people are like, okay, what is that? That is not you, but I want to read this in its entirety and then ask you to come and walk us through what is this. So you share that my own sparkle factor has had to sustain complexity of loss, disappointment, reinvention, and time from the big stage to the smallest of rooms. This one-time actor, singer, dancer has known and experienced great loss. Recapturing the glimmer in my soul has taken years of patient practicing, sometimes failing, sometimes stubbornly repeating the simplest truth: staying stuck is never the solution. And you said you like to think of yourself as a glittery girl boss, enabling leaders to unlock and unleash their full potential so they bring greater value and abundance to the people and entities that they serve. So walk me through, like, what does that mean? Like, you are like the sparkle factor.
Well, so part of that is because from a young age, like I said, I was in the entertainment field, and my last
Mhm,
name being Castle, my parents were extremely poor on food stamps. And so
mm,
I was born on December the 23rd, which this all goes together. And so
yeah,
we didn't have a lot of money. And to try to delineate the fact that my birthday was December 23rd and Christmas was
mhm,
December 25th, and parents who
yeah.
were on food stamps, they would get me those cardboard cutouts of tiaras. Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah.
And they had the big chunky, like, glitter
Mhm.
just
Yes.
glued on, and, like, if you moved it all, it would all fall off,
So
right?
yes.
And so, from an early age, people would talk about that every time I came into a room, there was glitter or sparkles left behind.
Mhm,
And I began to really embrace that. So not just in an
mm.
entertainment kind of kitschy way,
Right,
but
right.
really, what does it mean after you've been in the presence of someone that
Mhm.
they light you up? Or do they
Ah,
light you up? Or how do
yeah.
you feel? Do you feel mucky? Because if you feel
Mhm,
mucky, I don't have time for you. And I would
mhm,
say that you need to get rid of those toxic environments and people out of your life.
mhm.
And so my work, like you said, is taking that kind of patient
Yeah.
practicing to say there's a whole lot about life and business that is
Mhm.
gross, that's
Yeah.
not sustainable, that can wreck you. There's also a
Mhm.
lot of joy, and there are
Yes.
people that want to cheer you on, and there are systems and processes to make it easier.
Yes.
So, the sparkle factor is my way of saying, what can we do, you and me,
Mhm,
whoever I'm
mhm.
working to
Yeah,
help you get to your takeover plan, your mission, what drives you, how you're going to make the world a
yeah.
lighter, like light like this, but also
Mhm.
lighter internally this way that will just make the magic happen
Yeah.
between you and the clients that you serve. And so it doesn't have to be as hard as people think it is, right? And
Yes,
so
true.
I think everybody has their own definition of what drives them. I call that the
Yes.
sparkle factor. What is it that
Mhm.
drives you? And then let's amplify that.
Okay. Let me ask you an interesting question. Have you ever had any men that said, "Look, I ain't got no sparkle factor. That's not me," or they want you to change the wording or whatever? For someone who is more in a male-driven industry, do they accept the sparkle factor in the same way that what you just shared?
You know, it's interesting. I have lots of male clients, and when
Mhm.
I say
Mhm.
that, people are just stunned because I my marketing, my colors
Yeah.
look very girly, and I am, and
Yeah.
I unapologetically say I am your glittery girl boss.
Yeah.
But I am also a human confetti cannon, as a male
Mhm.
client of mine called me
Uh,
and said, "You are a human confetti cannon." And so what I say is you always need a cheerleader. And so for my
yes.
men clients, what I say is, you know what? I don't look like your typical corporate person because
Mhm.
obviously those people haven't helped you or you
Yeah.
wouldn't be with me. And what you're
Mhm.
looking for is a creative solution. So if you're
Mhm.
looking for creativity and joy and
Yeah.
energy, then I'm your girl. But if you
Mhm.
want someone who's going to show up in a three-piece suit, right, with their hair in
Right.
a bun, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's definitely not me. So
Yeah.
the type of male clients I get, I think they already know that just because they've
Okay.
checked me out, they've watched this kind of interaction before.
Right.
And what I'll say is, if that hasn't worked, if a spreadsheet
Mhm.
hasn't worked for you, then I'm your girl.
Right. Love that. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you some very specific leadership questions because I want people to even learn more about, like you said, the creative solutions that you offer. So let me ask you this. So what are three ways you see in today's leadership that leaders are getting themselves stuck?
Ooh, I'm so glad you asked this question. Okay, so the first one is that we don't properly ask the right questions,
Mm,
meaning that do you have all the tools and resources that you need? If you don't,
mhm.
who has them or what are they and how do you have access to them,
Yeah.
for example? And then I teach a whole roundtable method in which to
Hmm.
do project development, meaning that you have to wear several different hats. And so it's
Hmm.
not just about risk management, right? The
Right.
black hole,
Right.
what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
It's also what did we learn about a way to serve better? And so I take them
Hmm.
through this process of seven different hats that you put on, seven different,
Okay.
I call them costume characters. Uh, so the second principle I would say is just
Yeah.
because this is the one way that you've approached it, you really do
Hmm.
need to access all the different ways of thought and
Yeah.
thinking leadership, as well as creative development and learning styles to make
Hmm.
sure that you are seeing everything from the aspect that you can. And then I
Yeah.
think the third thing, since you want me to do it in three,
Yes.
would be which is how are you embodying your mission, your
Mhm.
I call it takeover plan,
Yeah.
but your vision out in the world in everything that you say, be, and do. Meaning
Yes.
that it is obvious that I am all about the sparkle. I mean, you can see from
Hmm.
my earrings, just in my
Yeah.
personality. whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily everybody's thing. But when I
Hmm.
have an interaction with them, either with words
Right.
or what they're putting on social or anything, everything that you do needs to be a cohesive unit. And I think that's
Hmm.
part of understanding the role of a leader in these kind of changing and chaotic times.
Oh, I love that. So I know this is always a question that people always ask. What makes a leader successful? And so I would love to know your perspective on that. Like what makes a leader successful? And also the flip side of that, what makes a leader ineffective?
Ooh.
So both
So,
sides.
okay, all right. So I'm going to start with ineffective first. So I'm going to
Yeah.
flip it if that's okay.
Hmm. Not a
And
problem.
I think what makes leaders ineffective is when they decide they know everything.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a
Yeah,
good one.
because at that point, then you're not a sponge anymore and you're not
Hmm.
receptive to a better way, another person, a new idea. And
Yeah.
that's when life stops. That's when you're
Hmm.
stagnant, and stagnant at some point equals a slow decay to death, right?
Right,
So
right.
that's what I would say ineffective leaders know it all.
Hmm.
Therefore, my definition of success then is always being willing to be open to what's in front of you and looking at
Hmm.
it in a different way. So
Yeah.
I often tell a story when I'm speaking about there's 16 ways to cross the river. And so many
Yeah.
people stand at the river's edge and they argue that the boat's not right. We can't all get. And then what they've
Right.
done is they don't see that there's a bridge just over here. They just got to walk
Hmm.
a few steps and get on the bridge because
Yeah.
they were so focused here, right?
Yeah.
So I think success is seeing 16 ways across the river, right?
That's good. That's good. Okay, you bring God, you bring up so many good points here. Okay, so let me ask you this, because we're in a different environment now where there's so many different complexities with what's happening, obviously because of the pandemic. You got virtual teams now. You got all kind of social issues that are hitting leaders left and right, from race, gender, you name it, all in between. So, what would you say to a leader that feels paralyzed about all the different dynamics and doesn't want to like shift, like rock the boat because it's scary. They don't know which direction to go. Like, what would you say to help them become unparalyzed in that setting? Like, how do I address virtual teams coupled with all these different changing dynamics? Like, what do I do? What would you say to them?
Well, I think the first thing is to realize that in chaos, so chaos
Hmm.
theory tells us that that's where creative solutions emerge. All right. But we don't
Okay.
like to be in
Okay.
that swirling mess,
Right.
right? It's scary, it's dark, it's confusing. Totally understand
Hmm.
that, right? So when
Yeah.
that happens, I do a lot of brain development theory stuff. So
Hmm. Hmm.
when that happens in your brain gets starved of oxygen because you freak out, right?
Yeah.
And when you
Right.
freak out, then you shut everything down because you're like, oh, the
Yes.
bear's gonna eat me. And so you
Mhm.
just go into survival mode, right?
Yes. Yes.
Instead, if you're in that space and you're watching this, you're checking this out,
Hmm.
besides the wonderful work that Kimberly does, which you should totally
Hmm.
be reading, checking out, getting uplift from like your subscription box and everything else that you do,
I love
what I would say
it.
is, what I would say is that it's okay to do one thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to do all the things.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I constantly am teaching my clients that if everything is urgent,
Hmm.
then you are in burnout. And so we have
That's
to
a good point.
understand a different way of understanding priorities and how we show
Hmm.
up. And I was just talking to a group of women the other day, and I was asking them like, how many things do you have in your to do list this morning?
Hmm.
And most of them had over 20 things on their to do list in one day during
Wow.
work. And I said, okay, we have a problem,
Yeah.
right? We have a
Yeah.
problem because honestly, I know this is going to sound trite, so your listeners, please don't roll your eyes if you're listening to this. But if I get one magnificent thing done that day,
Yeah.
stop and celebrate. Look at the amazing work I did, and the
Mm.
magnificent thing actually maybe I paid all my bills.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't have to be that I changed the world, that my social media campaign got 100,000 likes in 20 seconds. I
Yeah.
think that we have to, mitigate our expectations
Yes.
if we want to show up. So for the person that has all these overwhelming things, what is
Hmm.
one thing right
Hmm.
now that you could do? One teeny tiny step, one
Right.
teeny tiny action. And when you do that and it doesn't completely fall apart on you, you're like, take a minute, celebrate, like throw yourself a party
Yes.
before you do the next thing because
Right.
there's too many things.
Yes. And the list always keeps growing and growing. It's kind of like quicksand. No matter how quickly you're trying to climb up, if you keep adding to your list, like you said, you'll always keep being in this cycle that's not the most productive or healthiest for you.
Right.
Right.
And I would say, I know as entrepreneurs, like you and
Hmm.
I are, these
Hmm.
entrepreneurs to spaces that we keep,
Yeah.
right? The first thing that a lot of coaches will say is, well, go get an assistant or go add a member to your
Hmm.
team. I'm like, Well, that just freaks me out even more. Now I
Right.
have to like take all this and then put it
Yeah.
somewhere and then teach it to somebody, and I don't even have enough time as it is. So
Right.
if you're in that space, I think the best way to start is to take things off your plate.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
for example, are you in a space where you could order your groceries and have them delivered?
Yeah.
Like, unless that's like for me, I love to go grocery shopping because I love to
Right.
cook. So, but if that is you could get an hour back, then
Hmm.
do that. So
Right.
small little subtle shifts so that you can just manage the chaos that's in front of you.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Okay, so I got two more questions for you.
Oh gosh, I just chatting away. Go ahead.
Yes. I noticed that on your branding and your marketing, you speak about extraordinary vision. Tell us what that is as it relates to leadership.
Well, here's the thing. You hear a
Hmm.
whole lot of people talk about mission and vision.
Right, right.
And extraordinary vision for me is
Hmm.
when you have tapped into your core values. So you have your personal core
Hmm.
values and you have your
Right,
organizational values, right?
right.
And where things I think get a little astray is we assume
Hmm.
that one trumps the other, or that our
Right,
core values are the same as our mission and values, which they're not, right? Our
right.
core values are how we want to show up in the world. And they vary person to person. It's
Hmm.
not like it's like if someone says mine is ethics and someone over here says creativity, great, good on you.
Yeah.
But it gets messy when people don't quite understand how to use their core values to
Hmm.
lead organizations.
Hmm.
Meaning that if an organizational values and your own values are at constant like battling like this,
Hmm.
you won't be happy, you're going to burn out. The organization won't be served by your gifts.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is take your core values first and
Hmm.
then set an extraordinary vision, which part of that is mission and values work, but your
Right,
extraordinary vision looks way into the future,
right.
way into the future. And we want to be doing actionable steps every day that get us towards that vision.
Hmm. Good point. I love that. That's something too that, and I'm sure you do work with leaders in that space because I find that oftentimes we don't reevaluate or even often go back to our vision to make sure that we're on track because I've seen people you and I both know this at the start of the year, they write their vision and then by the end of the month or maybe even no, February, the ones who are lucky to get to that point, they leave their vision behind or they forget that and they don't use as a framework on how to grow forward.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's so key, like when I saw that listed, is that it's so important that they do have that with the core values and that they're able to implement that in their leadership because to me, that's when you become really effective because you're really standing more in your true skill sets when you're a leader and you're aligning your organizational values with your core values. I love that. I
If
do.
you're only evaluating what you're doing once a year
Hmm.
on December 31st before you go to
Right.
your New Year's Eve party, then you can't make the small tweaks along the way. So
Exactly.
looking at it maybe every 90 days and
Hmm.
what am I doing towards my extraordinary vision? You can
Right.
constantly be tweaking and changing and bring people alongside you, but doing it yearly, honestly, that doesn't work anymore. The world is too fast paced. Technology
Hmm.
changes, client base shifts, pandemic
Yes.
appears and never leaves. And so
Yes.
think about doing that work in smaller chunks would be
Hmm.
more helpful than the way that we were taught even
And
5
it
years
would
ago.
be. I agree. So, what would you say right now to a leader watching this right now and who's saying, okay, so I want to up level my leadership. I want to grow in the space that I'm in. What should I do? And then I also want you to couple that with sharing them about what you do that could potentially help them.
Okay, well, thank you for that opportunity.
Yes. Yes.
So, what should you do? Well, the first thing that you
Mhm.
should do, I think, is make sure you're not doing the work alone.
Mm.
So I'm a big proponent of, like I said, locking arms. So that
Mhm.
could be that you join a business association, and I am a big advocate too of finding someone maybe that you're reading, that you're following, and
Yeah.
then look at their contact list and get 3 or 4 people deep. Find someone else
Mm.
that maybe is in a
Yeah.
completely different industry that you, but might be in the same life stage as you,
Right, right.
and buy them coffee, virtual coffee if you
Yes.
have to.
I
You know,
love the mug.
thank you. Um, don't we all?
Right.
We all miss Prince. And what can you do together to
Mhm.
share ideas?
Mhm.
And so for some people, it can join an association. For some people, it's having lunch with someone that is just a
Yeah.
little bit further along than where they want to be, or
Mhm.
doing this, putting on your calendar. I'm going to watch a TED talk. I'm not
Yeah.
sponsored by TED, by the way.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to get some uplifting, motivational. I'm going to follow
Mhm.
certain channels every day. I'm going to listen to a different podcast. But
Right.
really amassing those resources around you, hiring a coach, for example, these things
Mhm.
will help you get further. And that's the one
Yes.
place that will help you from staying stuck where you are.
Exactly. Exactly. So how can they learn more about you and what you offer to them?
Oh my stars. Okay, so you just go to SuzanneCastle.com, spelled just like you think, Suzanne Castle.
Hmm.
Com.
Hmm.
There's a ton of resources I put up there for you.
Hmm.
So Kimberly, like if they'll go to that/free, there are 3 resources there, and they're all specific to leaders. So some are about chaos, some are about asking better questions. There's one like a speedy priority finder. If you're in freak out mode, in 5 minutes, I can help you come up with your priorities so you can set your schedule a little bit better. And so
I love
that's
it.
the best place to find out about the courses and keynotes that I offer and the work that I do, and go there so you can get lots of goodies. I mean, I'm a big believer
Yeah.
in there's way too much out there that's paid.
Mhm.
Let's help each other. So please go
Yeah.
grab some of those freebies.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your expertise. And I feel like people are going to be very blessed and helped by all of the information that you shared today. So I thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. And thank you again for the light that you're putting out in the world, because you've already changed my life. And I know you do that for so many people every
Oh,
single day.
well, thank you. Oh my gosh. You always say the sweetest things. Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us. We're going to put Suzanne's information in all the notes and all the links to everything where you can find her, follow her, support her, and more importantly, reach out to her, especially if you're a leader, because she's definitely someone that can definitely bring that sparkle factor to your teams and to your organizations. So thank you again, Suzanne, for joining us.